This is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and this is a game from round 4 of the 2011 Bilbao Chess Masters Final. It is a Super GM tournament going on. The first half just ended, rounds 1 through 5 in Sao Paolo, and rounds 6 through 10 are going to be taking place in Bilbao in Spain. So this is a game between Levon Aronian and Vassily Ivanchuk. Ivanchuk's been playing out of his mind lately, coming off of a third-place finish at the 2011 World Cup that was held pretty recently. I believe it was July and August. And with that third-place finish, he is automatically qualified for the 2012 World Championship Candidates Tournament. So he is actually in the lead now after round 5 has just ended, and he is a full point ahead, a full win ahead of Hikaru Nakamura, who's in second place. So here against Aronian, starts out a pretty standard opening knight bd7, not the most common move in this position, but nonetheless very flexible. I mean, black can still play c6 or c5, so I think maybe that's part of the allure for Ivanchuk, and he's always messing around with the move order because he feels so much more comfortable than everybody else, usually in kind of weird, unorthodox style positions. So now with the bishop g5, and now bishop b4, and this is pretty similar to the Rogozin variation if black intends to proceed with c5, although the knight being on d7 could be a drawback with some of those lines. So a couple of exchanges, and maybe Ivanchuk was planning to play c5 or maybe h6 and possibly following with g5, but after knight d2, which is kind of a strange move, but the idea is probably, let's say if white plays something like e3, here in exchange is just going to bring the knight to a really natural square, and if bishop h4, black can go for a position similar to the Rogozin, probably with c5 and queen a5 to follow. So I think that explains Aronian's knight d2 here. And so with c6, Ivanchuk is playing kind of it's like a hybrid kind of Slav position, but the knight's come to e6 now. And now with g6, black's getting ready to castle. He doesn't like the power of this battery aiming at his h7 pawn. So now a5, pretty typical move, trying to gain space, and g4. So Aronian, both players have about an hour now. Aronian with g4, he's trying to get fresh, pretty much. I mean, he could castle, he could castle, play knight d2, f3 and e4 maybe, or, just put the rooks in the center. But he sees a5, and he's thinking, okay, I can't go queenside now. He's already starting the attack, so he's trying to start his own attack. So maybe it was a little more accurate to play the direct knight e5, which would prevent this, but I guess this allows black a simplification if he so chooses with knight d7. So g4, anyway, I mean, it's pretty interesting stuff, and the time control is pretty rapid here for the most part, I guess, for these guys. So g4 is always good to attack. So b5, bishop b7, and now things have gotten a little bit out of control after Aronian snaps off f4. So I guess there's really no turning back when you're trying to put on an attack here, and Ivanchuk just plays c5, and it's such a ridiculously nuts move. I don't know where this guy comes up with this stuff. So c5, just opening the bishop, trying to exert more influence on e4, as well as put some pressure on d4. So I thought, Aronian played the critical line, but I also thought knight takes b5 was pretty interesting. And it just leads, I can't really evaluate the position. I think it's just very unclear. There's a couple ways to continue. c4, trying to take advantage of a weak e4 square, for example. Even g5 here, it's kind of a nasty idea. Anyway, so I mean, this is a complete mess. Also, it's possible, I guess, to take. I mean, I like this g5 idea. You can always throw it in, maybe some kind of take and queen b6. It's very unclear. So knight takes b5 I thought was a pretty interesting idea, but instead Aronian put the critical, completely psycho line with f5. And so now it's leads to some exchanges, and both players are on 40 minutes here, and now d4. And Ivanchuk, d4, a pretty interesting idea, because this bishop, when it originally came to b7, didn't seem like it had such high hopes. But after c5, couple of exchanges, and now d4, the bishop has finally managed to open the diagonal and create some serious threats of queen d5. So knight takes f7. Also, Aronian had takes, and I assume this was what Ivanchuk had in mind. If knight takes, I believe takes, and now queen d5, and black's just up a piece. Should be winning. If bishop takes, queen d5 immediately seems to be the move, and I don't really see anything better for white than still being down a piece. So black should be doing fine here. Black should be winning there, actually. So d4, I mean, he's got some serious threats. So Aronian, he plays knight takes f7, and, now queen d5 anyway. And while the position looks completely irrational, black's mating threats kind of overcome any kind of material gains white might be thinking of. And those pawns don't look so great either. So queen d5, and I think Aronian, maybe he missed the point at the very end of this combination, but it was pretty cool. So the queen goes on a tour, queen takes f3, so threatening a couple things, mainly queen takes e3 check, which would be mate. So king e1. And now takes. And maybe this queen takes h3 was what Aronian missed. Because it is a pretty nice move. If he throws in the check, this helps white run. But with just queen takes h3, he's got the mate threat. And all of a sudden things are not so clear. And if he takes this pawn, maybe bishop takes. Also, if bishop takes, I believe this results in mate as well. So, okay, so bishop takes f6, takes, and now the queen, a lot of choices, but Ivanchuk first chooses to activate the bishop with a check, now bishop f3. And this maybe was what Aronian missed, because this was a pretty cool idea by Ivanchuk. King c2, check, make some running room for the king, so knight h6 isn't mate. And after king b1, at first I looked at bishop e4, and I thought, okay, this has got to work, but I think queen e2 and maybe white is going to hold. But instead, queen takes f1, and now bishop e4, and it's kind of madness there for a second, but black, the only option for white is queen c2, and the game's just over. So, a pretty crazy line, starting with bishop f3. So instead of Aronian, he sacks it. And now the queen, I looked at queen h1 with a similar idea, but I think after check, maybe white, I guess this is the idea, is king d3, which is ridiculous, but, maybe this, now the white's got two extra pieces, got a really strong attack. There's no other checks to throw at white's king. I guess, and the queen here is pretty crazy. So maybe that's what he was thinking. Instead of queen h1, Ivanchuk just takes the piece. And now he's up in exchange, although white has definite compensation. But his king is stuck in the middle. So queen takes d4, and maybe black could have taken here. Could have even sacked. And this looks pretty drawn. But Ivanchuk didn't want to trade. He wanted to keep the queens on to try to take advantage of the fact that white's king was still so exposed. Understandable. So, but he's down so much time. Here he's got a minute left. Aronian has 10. So they haven't made it near the time control. Still 10 more moves. Ivanchuk with 20 seconds. Rook b8, just a safe move, trying to hang on to the pawn here. And he doesn't want to trade any pieces because he wants to maintain attacking chances. All he needs to do is get a couple of checks against white's king, and preferably keep his king, he doesn't want to allow a perpetual check. So Aronian, still pretty gutsy not to just try to play for the draw, but Ivanchuk's trying to play for the win. He's feeling it here. So queen b3 with, 20 seconds. There's a 10-second increment here. So now he's tied up this rook, which turns out to be decisive. So check. Gaining a little time, now rook c8. So rook c8, it looks like, if Ivanchuk can just force a few trades, he can pick up this pawn with this pin here. There's no easy way out for white. Bishop d3, and, probably just queen d1 is going to win a piece easily. So instead, Aronian, he thought for about a minute here, trying to flag Ivanchuk, no doubt. He thought for a minute, couldn't find a better continuation, and just said, screw it, I'm going to try to flag him here. He's only got like 10 seconds or 6 seconds. But with the increment, it's a different ball game. And he tries, queen d7 here. And, I guess he was trying to get a perpetual check. Maybe queen f3 was an idea. Although it seems like in either case, after bishop e7, black's going to be getting away just fine. And he's also got a lot of threats based on that pin. So instead, he tried queen d7, trying to pick up another pawn, but Aronian was moving so fast, he was just trying to flag Ivanchuk. And after rook e8, Aronian just resigned here. He didn't want to try to disrespect Ivanchuk by keep trying to flag him. And he has absolutely nothing in this position because the pin on this, the rook, the bishop, the king is just getting killed here. And let's just say he takes, he snatches the pawn. I mean, the queen can't even move because of this check. And now the game is absolutely over. So after queen d7, the queen is just stuck defending the d file. Black can always bring the bishop back and just create the threat anyway. So in light of the fact, even though Ivanchuk was so short of time with the increment and his position was just totally winning, Aronian resigned after 38 moves. So pretty sick game. Ivanchuk is playing out of his mind. Coming off the World Cup, I didn't know if he was going to be too prepared playing against 5 other, of the world's best. The tournament has an average rating of like 2780. So, but no, the guy's playing out of his mind, up a full point after 5 rounds on his way to Bilbao to see if he can stick it out for the last half of the tournament. So this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and thanks for tuning in.